Hi guys, it's Alex. I'm here to give you guys a movie review. This is a movie which is based on Disney. This is a Disney movie. Basically, it's called Up. Now, some people will probably get confused, like up in the sky, whatever you want to say. But there's more to it than that. There's more to it than that. And I want to personally want to say here, for the definition of this word for this movie, is sacrifice. Sacrifice is something very, very important. I think it really means a lot. And I think all of us need to learn that, and I think all of us really do. Now, this is not the name of the movie of sacrifice. It's not. But Up is very, very special. To me, it really actually is. It reminds me of really a lot of different things. When it comes to family, friends, your pet, or whoever it really was, and stuff like that. Whoever it really was, or anything for that matter, for that matter. I want to personally want to say here is that Up is very special. It's a very, very, very special movie. I'm willing to personally say I think the Pixar has made a masterpiece in my eyes. I really definitely do think so. And I'm just going to say this movie is 10 out of 10. That's all I'm just going to say for right there. It's really good. The actors, oh man, the soundtrack in this movie, I mean, it's really good. It's really good. It reminds me of the soundtracks listening to Toy Story. If you listen, if you know what I mean, you will listen in and hear the soundtracks of the Toy Story and basically stuff like that. And I really enjoy that really a lot. When I'm watching this movie, I can just by listening to the soundtrack and just by reminding me of Toy Story, watching when I was a kid and stuff. It's just like wow. It was just like wow. It gave me goosebumps. It really did. It shows how much nostalgia it really brought to me to see Toy Story as an aspect basically of the movie. It kind of reminds me also too, the like using the same animation of Toy Story also too. And I want to personally want to say here is that I don't think Toy Story or Up has a personal connection, but even though when you compare them to the basis of them two, Toy Story is basically about toys, about like Buzz Lightyear and Woody, and basically he being the sheriff and Buzz Lightyear being the astronaut man, basically goes around in space and he defeats Emperor Zurg and save the world of the galaxy. And then you have like Up basically in a movie like an old man who grew up from a boy meeting a girl that he never would thought would basically be the perfect girl that he would basically would be, that basically that girl was everything to him, the lady, the wife that he loves so much, and basic stuff. I kind of want to say here is I think the one thing that really hit me really the most basically this movie is that that Ellie she had a miscarriage, and I can understand it. I've heard many of different my friends has gone through that, especially my pastor around in my church back then used to be the pastor of my church. Him and his wife had several miscarriages back then. I don't know. I think it was like only 2. I'm not really so sure. But the one thing I want to say is yes, that's very devastating. That's really sad. It really actually is, because I don't think anyone in a family, especially when you're a husband and stuff like that, and you have a wife that is going through that. That's a very sad situation. It really actually is. And I think that Mr. Fredricksen is basically like when he sees her like sitting in the chair outside, means that she doesn't want to be bothered. She just want to be left alone, and just basically, she's just like, just not really crying or anything like that, but just like reflecting and and seeing how much that's really important to her. And basically, it is. It's very, very important to her. It's not only important to her, but it's important to her husband, to Mr. Fredricksen. I also want to say also well too that I liked about the movie that you really don't see this really too often basically in Disney movies anymore, because I'm kind of like disappointed basically about this, not in the movie, but I like the fact seeing basically getting married in the church, and I really like that really a lot as a Christian for myself. And I really definitely do like that really a lot. I think that's a very good standing ovation, and seeing what Disney really done for right there, and it just really actually is, and that's something I really admire and I loved and I like, and I was like, wow, that's really powerful to see just see that, because you really don't see that really all that often anymore, and you really don't. Because it's just something that it was just basically a common thing that they took out of from Disney. That's what I definitely do think. If you go back to generations from the older movies and stuff, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I mean every single movie from Disney, maybe good, maybe perfect, maybe not really all that great, or not really good, or anything like that, I also want to say here also as well too that the elements and stuff like that when it comes to different movies and stuff like that when Disney ever made that those are missing memories that we used to know and stuff like that. I think Up is a very good kind of like a nostalgia, basically kind of like a movie remembers of certain movies that you used to watch. If you really don't know what I mean, take as for instance, like I said before, based on Toy Story, and you'll listen to the soundtrack and stuff like that. It kind of reminds me really basically a lot that if you listen very carefully, you'll know exactly from the soundtrack, and it's just basically from the music also as well too. I don't think there's not any singing basically in this movie, which I definitely don't believe. I don't think they really add a song to this movie, and because the reason why I don't think they really should, because I think that they should just basically just leave it the way that it is, leave it as like an old-fashioned kind of movie, a classic of respect, dignity, and courage and faith, and it's especially sacrifice. Sacrifice is the big word that I loved about basically in this movie, because a lot of people would just basically say like, what does sacrifice mean? Sacrifice means is that you're willing to give up something that is precious to you, that you really don't want to give. Let's say you found the holy grail of swords. Let's say you found King Arthur's sword. Okay, and you want to keep it there. You don't want it to be touched. You don't want nobody to look at it or touch it. But if you were at an inn, and that if we're like, let's say like a family needs something really bad, and they're a very poor family, and let's say their son or their daughter is basically in the hospital, and they're suffering really bad. What would you do? Would you keep that sword and say like, hey, I don't care and stuff like that? It's not my concern or anything like that. But you know what? If I was basically in that position, I would just basically say, you know what? I'm just going to take the sword away. I'm going to cash this in, and I'm going to give it to the family. Because you know why? Because that sword doesn't mean nothing to me. It may seem like it's special to have that sword, but from giving that sword up and having the money, not just for myself, but just for the money for the family, to take care of their child and stuff like that, I would have done that. But would you do the same thing? Would you you really care about the sword? Would you really care about that? And I think the point I'm trying to make here is basically that if you see the movie for yourselves, that Mr. Fredricksen, he made a sacrifice for himself. He really did. He was so concerned about the promise that he made. And I understand. Promises is basically is something that you have to keep. But sometimes you have to break a promise. Sometimes that you have to. Sometimes you have to, to break the rules and stuff like that. And sometimes you really have to. And I want to personally want to say here is basically that I do follow by rules and stuff like that. I do. I'm always been that way because I've been raised really properly from my family and stuff like that. And I don't mean to brag basically about that. But I will the person want to say here is basically that Mr. Fredrickson may seem like he's a perfect individual, basic kind of person. But basically what he did is not only basically caring about himself by making the sacrifice of what he did, by sacrificing his house, because even though it's precious to him, because him and his wife, basically have great memories with each other, looking at the stars, looking at the skies, and looking at the clouds, like seeing like different shapes of the clouds, like animals or cars or whatever it is stuff like that. It really actually is. And see the moments, the pictures and stuff like that, and basically stuff like that. I know it must have been hard for Mr. Fredrickson to make those things, to make those sacrifices, and I know it must be very, very hard. It really actually is. And basically to sacrifice his house. His house didn't get destroyed or anything like that. His house really didn't, and basically his house just took off with balloons all around the house. And when you go back into the beginning of the movie, where the beginning of the parts of the beginning of the movie, you could just tell Mr. Fredrickson he's not a miserable old man or anything like that. He wants his life back because he's lonely, he's sad. I wouldn't say really sad. Yes, he's grumpy, but even though that's just the way he is, I mean, he misses the things that he loved, that was used to be back in his life. And I think all of us misses those things in our life, those elements, and stuff like that. And back then it was perfect. It was perfect for those guys back then. It really was. No TV, no cell phones, just listening to the radio and whatever it is and stuff like that. And no computers or GPSs or whatever it is and stuff like that. And all we have is our two own hands, listening to the radio or just cooking stuff and like watching your wife like cook something, like making a meal for you and stuff like that, or just sit there just listening to a book or someone, or read a book or just look at the stars and stuff like that. I mean, that's entertainment to me. I think that's entertainment. If people really want to say that's entertainment, to me, that is entertainment. The computer and laptop and Nintendo Switch or manga, whatever the anime or anything like that, or the cell phone or whatever that is not entertainment. If some people may think that really is entertainment, it's not. I think that Mr. Fredrickson is basically a wonderful man. He really actually is. There are elements that was missing in his life. The beginning of from him being a child, and then going through the end of the movie of making that sacrifice, and it really actually is. I want to say here, like I said before, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I really definitely do think it's by far one of the greatest movies of all time. I think it's even 10 times much more better than Lion King. I dare to say it, and I will say it, because it shows how much of a meaning it really actually is. The elements is there, the soundtracks is there, the actors are there, everything is just there for that movie. It has such a very good nostalgia of a classic, basically of a movie, but not just focusing like from the past to the present and to the future, by focusing the elements of people really do enjoy learning about new things and stuff like that. It's kind of like the saying like I could teach a dog new tricks, and guess what? That dog can learn new tricks. because you know why, we have to train ourselves. That's like, we have to train our minds, and we have to, and and stuff, and then one thing I really like the most is hanging around with. I love to hang around with old people. I don't know why, I just do, because you know why, because I love to hear their stories about what, basically about their lives. What was it like for them back then, and it really was. I don't want people to really think I'm being weird, just basically just of that, because the reason why I'm saying that, because when you see this kid basically in the movie, Russell, I think that's his name, Russell. I do believe that's his name. Russell is very committed. It's a very committed kid. He really actually is. He's willing to do whatever it takes to have the fun and the adventure of a lifetime. And let me just say this also as well too, because Russell also reminds me a lot of like Mr. Fredricksen, because them two are both similar, and they both have different similar things. And just like I said before, when you have Mr. Fredricksen, and when you have basically Russell also as well too, that makes me feel like him, Mr. Fredricksen, is teaching the dog new tricks, and stuff like that, and sharing stories and stuff like that. And we can learn from older people. We really can. Some people would just say, well, that's just a waste and stuff like that. I don't think it's not. I don't think it's not. It's a lot to learn, to learn their examples and not to make mistakes from that also as well too. I think that it really actually is. I'm happy. I'm glad I have older friends in my life. I really do. And I really do. I have my grandma. I love my grandma to death, and she's very close and personal to me in my life. She's the best woman I ever met in my life, and I'm willing to admit that, and I really willing to admit that. And it really actually is. And maybe that day, when that day comes, she has to go away, and I'm not prepared for that. And I know I have to wait for that moment to come. And I want to enjoy the life that she gave for me and for my family and for her husband. And I want to say also too that this movie also reminds me also a lot about like my grandpa. And because I said I made a video that I talked about my grandpa, how much I love him, how much I miss him, especially my dad and stuff. And this movie just really means a lot to me. It really does. So I'm going to replace this movie for my #1 favorite movie of all time. I know I said there's going to be Cool Runnings, but I love Cool Runnings so much. It has such great quotes, great inspirational. But this movie Up has one of the best elements I've ever seen in basically in any other movie that can rival any other movie. I don't care if it rivals Tom Cruise, because I really don't care about Tom Cruise really all that much. His movies are great, but his movies are not really that great. But I think Up is greater than that. I think it really is. Now, I'm shooting fire with arrows. I am. But a lot of people will probably get upset with me about that. But that doesn't matter. But I will, as the person will say, this movie does deserve a lot of respect. And I just want to say thank you to Disney for making such a perfect movie. 10 out of 10, absolutely good, and a beautiful movie, and really represents a lot of different things that what you see basically in the movie, and nostalgia also too. So yeah, but yeah, it was that's it for this movie review. Tell me what you guys think. Do you guys like this movie? You guys don't like the movie? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments below. What are you guys' opinions about this movie? Do you guys love this movie? Do you think this movie is a lot better than Tom Cruise movies or something like that? Shooting fires again. But yeah, anyways, but I mean no disrespect, but I'm just saying. So yeah. Anyways, I love you guys. Take care. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Take care. Hope you guys don't forget to subscribe. Please consider subscribing. Place a like button, give me a thumbs up or give me a thumbs down. Doesn't matter to me. and leave your comments below. Anyways, I love you guys. Take care. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. God bless. Remember, Jesus love you. I love you guys. Take care. Bye. And remember, make a wish.